Hello YouTube, my name is Micah and today I will be showing you a simple quiz game in Java to help beginners understand some of the ideas and principles in the Java programming language. This is a tutorial meant for people who are brand new at programming, so I'm going to be breaking things down step by step. Taking a look at my screen, we are in a code editor called Visual Studio Code. This is a helpful environment for writing code and developing code, and I also have some extensions for helping me to make things look prettier and make things look more understandable. To get started, I am in a folder that I have created in my file explorer called Simple Quiz Game. First thing I'm going to do is to start off is to create a new file. We're going to call this quizgame.java, just like that, with a capital Q and a capital G. You'll see why just in a minute. And you can see that my editor has already created some code for me. This is exactly what I want. I want to write public class quiz game, just like this, with two brackets. Anything I write inside these brackets will be considered as part of the class quiz game. You can see that the name for the quiz game class has the capital Q and the capital G, just the same as the file name. This is important because when you're naming files, you also want to have the class name exactly the same. To start off here, we are going to create our main method. So we're going to write public static void main, just like this. Then some parentheses, and inside those parentheses, we're going to write string with a capital S, two brackets, and then args, just like this. Close the parentheses and create brackets just like this. And we have created our main method. If you are new to programming languages, the main method is basically the method from which everything is run on your computer. You don't really need to understand at your level what all this extra stuff means, this public static void stuff. It has meaning, but for the sake of simplicity, you do not need to know it yet. Just understand that anything we write inside of the main method is going to be evaluated. It's going to be run when we click this play button up in the top right corner. So let's create our hello world program. Let's write our print statement. So we're going to write system.out.println, parentheses, quotation marks, and we are going to write hello world, just like this, with a period, because this isn't that exciting. Okay, and now once we have written that out, let's go ahead and run it. So we're going to come up to this this little play button up here in the top right corner and just press play. If you have Java configured correctly on your computer, then you should see in the terminal here, you're going to see your hello world be outputted. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this just to show that it's working. Make sure that it is inside of these two brackets, inside of the main method still. And let's go ahead and write something else. My name is, and go ahead and write your name. I'm going to write mine. Just like that. And if we play it again, run the code, it'll automatically save the file and go ahead and start running it. And we should see in the terminal, there it is, hello world, my name is Micah. So there you have your hello world program. Whenever you start a new file, I recommend always writing this hello world statement. It helps you to sort of do the initial debugging that comes with any sort of programming language, and that is setting up things to run correctly. All right, so next thing I'm going to do, just to show you again, I'm going to delete this file. I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and you can see that my code editor has created this new file. When I ran that previous one, it created this quizgame.class file. That's just I don't really understand what it is myself, but it helps it's used by the computer to actually run the code. It like packages it up first, and that's what it runs it from. So we're going to go ahead and delete both of those. Create a new file, call it quizgame again, .java, quizgame.java. Go ahead and enter. You see that it generated our code once again, and we're going to write the main statement once again. You can go ahead and write it out as public static void main, but I'm going to show you an easier way. If you just type in main like this, you can see that you have some options here that are showing up. And if we just press tab, it automatically generates that main method long statement with all these characters that you don't really understand yet. That is very helpful for programmers when they get quick with writing their code. You can start typing things, and it'll generate options for you. Pressing tab on those options helps you quickly write that code, and faster is better in this kind of business. So now we're going to write the same print statement that we just did before, except I'm going to do it a different way. If you type in SOUT, S out, you can see that it brings up the options just the same again. And if you press tab, it writes out that system.out.println. That stands for print line. If you put in the quotation marks and then you write hello world, just like this, with an exclamation point this time, just to show that it is a little bit different. You can see that we have everything that we just had previously, except we wrote it with tab instead of having to type out everything. So go ahead and run that just to make sure it works, because why not? It's a new file. I just created it, and following my principles, there it is, hello world. So that's pretty cool. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to develop this quiz game so that we can actually play it. First thing I'm going to do is select this hello world inside of these quotation marks, and I'm going to just type welcome to my quiz game, just like that. Then we're going to create another one using the same technique we just learned, S out, and inside of these parentheses we're going to write quotation marks. Would you like to play? Play with correct spelling. There we go. And the goal of this is, before we even start the game, we would like to see if the user would like to play or not. If they would like to play, then they'll respond with yes, and we will continue with the game. If they do not want to play, they can type no, and that would end the game without having to play and having to go through the whole thing. So that will require, down in the terminal, that will require us having to be able to take an input from the user. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. It's a little obscure, but bear with me. First thing we're going to do is type scanner, SCNR equals new scanner parentheses, and inside those parentheses write system.in, just like that. Make sure you add a colon at the end of that, and below that you can see that we are already generating some errors. Underlined with red means that it is generating an error, all right? To quickly fix this, you can hover over it with Visual Studio Code. It'll give you this option to view the problem or to quick fix. And you can type, and you can do the Control plus, a period, and simply type, simply do this thing called import the scanner, okay? The reason for this is we are using an external class, same thing as a quiz game, but this is a class that professionals have developed. You don't need to understand what all of this means. You don't need to understand how it works, but you do need to understand how to use it. You don't need to understand why it works, but you do need to understand how it works, how to use it in your programs. That is one of the beauties of programming languages, is that you can collaborate with millions of other people, and they give you things that you can use and work with, and You don't need to understand why every little detail works the way it works. So let's go ahead and continue. We're trying to take some input from the user. We are going to write this next string, play string equals scnr, just like that, dot next, capital L for line, open and closed parentheses, okay? What this is going to do is this is going to use the scanner object, and it's going to call a method inside of that scanner object called the next line, and that's going to assign whatever we typed into the terminal to this variable called placeString. Now, what is a variable? A variable is basically like a box. You create it with, and you give it a name, and it holds some kind of data. In this case, the placeString variable. The placeString variable holds a data called a string. A string is this. A string is anything with quotation marks and a list of characters on the inside of it. It is a string of characters. Okay? So now that we have taken this string from the terminal, we want to evaluate it. If the user typed in yes, then we want to play the game. If they typed in no, then we want to exit. Okay? So let's write an if statement. This is called an if statement right here. If we type in a Boolean value inside of it, true or false for Boolean values, okay? If it's true, then it will evaluate what is inside of the parentheses, okay? What we're going to write right now is placeString dot equals, okay? So we're taking this placeString that we have up here, and we're checking if it is equal to a certain value inside of this parentheses. If it is equal to yes, then we are going to play things inside of the game. It's going to play things inside of the brackets, okay? So let's write a quick test method. Sout, tab, and then let's say, okay, playing the game. Sout, not playing the game. So this placeString is checking if the value that we sent through the terminal is equal to this value, yes. And if it is, then it will play in this, it will run whatever code is put inside of the brackets for the if statement. What we can do is after the brackets, outside of the brackets of the if statement, we can write something called an else. So we can write else and then put this code that we just wrote inside of that statement. So now if you look at this statement, you can see if the placeString equals yes, then it will evaluate playing the game. Otherwise, it will evaluate not playing the game, okay? So this will return either true or false. True or false. If it's true, then it'll play this, and if it's false, then it'll play this. Pretty straightforward. Let's run it. Give it a minute to boot up. There we go. Welcome to my quiz game. Would you like to play? And I'll type in yes. Then you can see it correctly says playing the game. Let's run it one more time. So, here we go. It says welcome to my quiz game. Would you like to play? And I'll say no this time. And now you can see that it has evaluated correctly. It says not playing the game. Perfect. So that's exactly what we wanted. So how do we take this and make it a little bit nicer? What we can do here is we can type in an exclamation point right before the play string. What this exclamation mark does is it evaluates whatever is true as false. It turns it into a false, okay? It turns true into false. That is what the exclamation point does. And it also turns a false statement, a false Boolean value, sorry, into a true Boolean value. Okay? So now, if the play string is equal to yes, it will return true, and then this not will turn it to false. So if false, now we can do something like this. We can delete that, and inside of here we can copy and paste our code for not playing the game. And we can get rid of this else bracket right inside of here. And let's go ahead and just change this to quit the game. Quitting the game. There we go. So now if we go ahead and run our program, we can see that when it plays, we can type in no, and there we go. It is now quitting the game. So how do we exit our system prematurely? We are going to use this code right here, system.exit. Very simple. And inside of the parentheses, we're going to type 0. So writing that, if the user does not want to play, then the system is going to exit. It's pretty straightforward. After this if statement, let's go ahead and give a few spaces, and once the if statement evaluates, it will continue evaluating the lines after it, the lines of code after it. Okay, so now we can start with our questions. Let's start with question 1. What I'm going to do right now is show you how to use the comments. If you put 2 forward slashes inside of Java, lines that have text will not be evaluated by the compiler. It will just sort of skip over it and ignore it, kind of like a white space, just an enter. This is very useful for programmers to leave little notes for themselves, leave little notes for each other, and overall it's just good programming practice to have some comments inside of your code. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to create a new variable called string answer. All right. Here we are creating a new box holding a string data type, and we're calling the box answer. Okay. We're going to do an s out, and we're going to prompt the user for the first question. And let's do something simple like, what does the exclamation point mean? And in parentheses, we can give them a hint. One-word answer. So this will help them this will help our users to give the correct answers in the way that we need it in order for our system to understand it. So now let's take our answer from our scanner, let's take an answer from the terminal, scnr.nextLine, and you can see that I just used tab to sort of finish writing the rest of that statement. And now we can evaluate it with another if statement inside of parentheses, answer.equals, and if you were paying attention, what does the exclamation point do? What does it mean? It means a not. Whatever is evaluated will be the opposite of what it was. So let's put our brackets and write another s out and tell the user that they got it correct. If they get the answer right, this will evaluate to true, and inside of it, it will get the correct answer. Okay. Then let's write an else statement and an s out, quotation marks, and incorrect for incorrect statements or for incorrect answers. There we go. Just like that, we have our first question. Let's go ahead and run our code, test it out, see how it works. You could see, you'll find a lot in programming that People encourage incremental development, just like this, implementing a little bit of code and then testing it to see if it works. So here we go. Welcome to my quiz game. Would you like to play? Yes, I would like to play. What does the exclamation point mean? Then I will say not, and that is the correct answer. There we go. If we play it again, and would you like to play? I'll say yes, and the exclamation point, what does it mean? If we say something like true, then you'll see it says incorrect. So there we go. We have the first little mechanics of our programming game set up. What you see me doing there is clearing the terminal, which is just writing this statement called clear and pressing enter, and what that does is just scrolls down basically, removes the text from previous output of our program, makes it a little nicer to look at, especially in a YouTube video. So now that we have the basic mechanics for our quiz game set up, we can start really fleshing out what we want to ask. We can write question 2. That's out, so let's prompt them for a new question. What does writing inside of the quotations of system.out.println do? Okay. And we are looking for a certain answer. scnr dot next line, just the same as we did before. Make sure you guys are putting these semicolons on the ends of the statements. And we are going to evaluate this to see if the answer equals it prints it to the terminal. Okay, just like that. And then we can do the same thing we just did earlier with a s out and a correct, like that. And an else statement for s out incorrect. Just like that. And there we have it. We have our quiz game, our simple quiz game all set up in Java. And there's a few more things that we can do just to sort of make this more complete feeling. So you'll see that there's this little squiggly yellow line underneath the scanner object, the SCNR. If you look at the problem, you'll see a bunch of stuff, and none of it really makes sense. All right, but when you hover over it, you can see that there's this thing called resource leak for SCNR is never closed, and that is because we are streaming information, the input from the terminal into our program. And if our system ever failed halfway through, then if that stream is still left open, it presents vulnerabilities, is what I'll say. It's kind of high level, much more advanced, but to get rid of this squiggly yellow line, all we have to do at the end here is type scnr.close. And that will fix that little squiggly line. So now our program doesn't have any errors whatsoever. There's still more stuff that we can add to it. So perhaps we have a bunch of questions and we want to give a score to our user. What we are going to do is create a new variable called score, and it's going to be typed like this: int score equals 0. All right, so what we are doing here is we are creating a new variable called score, and it's holding things called integers. Integers are whole numbers from negative like 2 2 million to positive 2 million. A large enough range for you to do basically anything you want. And we are just initializing it to 0 because at the start of our game, the score is 0. What we want to do is whenever the user gets a correct answer, it sort of increases their score. So the first question, let's see. The first question inside of the correct statement, we are going to type score plus plus, and then a semicolon. All right, so what this is doing is this is incrementing our score by 1. So the score starts at 0, and if they get their question correct, it'll increment to 1. And if we take this and we copy it, Control C, and we paste it, Control V, into the correct if statement of question 2, then it will increment it again. So if they get their first question correct, it'll be incremented to 1. And if they get their second question correct, it'll be incremented to 2. So just like that, we have now a score system for our game. Let's go ahead and, after all of the questions have been asked, after this scnr.close statement, let's write an output for the score of the game. Sout, just like that. And we can say something like you got a space plus score plus space questions correct. All right, and what this is doing is this is taking that variable in an integer and it is kind of putting it inside of this string. So what that would look like if they had both questions correct, that would look like a 2. This is what it would look like. You got 2 questions correct, okay? So that is what that is doing. It is taking the variable and putting it into this string statement and then outputting it to the terminal so our viewer can see their score at the end of the game. That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and run this. Let's just see how it works. If there are any errors, then I will go through and fix it. Would you like to play? Yes. What does the exclamation point mean? It means not. And what does writing inside the quotations of the system.out.println statement do? That, let's give an incorrect answer. Let's say it runs an addition, I guess. There we go. And there we see we got an incorrect. And then at the very end, we got this extra statement called, that we just wrote, you got 1 questions correct. Great. So one last thing we can do is we can add a total. Sout, just like that, and score plus score plus quotation marks, a division plus 2. 2 for the total number of questions that we have in our quiz game. If you want to go through and add more questions on your own, then make sure you remember this little 2 and change it to match the number of questions that you have in your game. So now if we run it and we go through it again, would you like to play? Yes. What does the exclamation point mean? It means not. And then we write it prints it to the terminal, which is the correct answer. Both of these questions were correct. We got 2 questions correct, and our score was 2 out of 2. So there you have it. That is our simple quiz game in Java. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little bit about the Java programming language